I don't know. Should Alabama even show up on Thursday? Should they just take the day off, go to Disneyland, and avoid what some people are suggesting could be a bloodbath? That New Blood, Indiana, will institute a bloodletting against Blue Blood, Alabama. Blue Bloods, New Bloods, bloodbath, bloodletting. It's too much blood. Welcome in, everyone. We're going to talk about the college football playoff. Yes, the playoff is back after an extended absence, and we are glad of it. Hey, everyone. I hope you had a great Christmas. I'm Kevin Scarbinsky. This is Scarbo Knows. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Money Management Services. They are Birmingham's financial services firm. They have been in business since 1992, a rather momentous year in Alabama football history when the Crimson Tide under Gene Stallings, also as a decided underdog against the number one team in the country, went to New Orleans and in the Sugar Bowl and took it to Miami and the Hurricanes. The Rice family, they will take great care of you. They've been good friends of mine for a long time. Any financial services you need, they can take care of it. So make sure you check them out. Make sure you follow me on X/Twitter. Yes, I will be live tweeting the Rose Bowl on Thursday, on New Year's Day. Spoiler alert, every tweet is not a prediction. It is a snapshot, a moment in time based on what has happened to that point or what I think may happen. I invite you to join me. Let's have a fun conversation. Let's go back and forth. Let's debate. Let's discuss. Maybe argue a little bit just for fun. That's what sports is all about. And we are glad that the playoff is back. Does any sport have a more convoluted postseason than college football? It has been, or it will have been, when we get to, today's December 29th, when we get to January 1st, 3 days from now, it will have been 25 days since Indiana played a football game. Of course, the Hoosiers won the Big Ten championship over Ohio State, and that's why they are the number one team in the college football playoff. It's been 12 days since Alabama rose from the dead in Norman, Oklahoma, came back from a 17-0 deficit to smoke the Sooners, derail the Sooner schooner. And that's why we have this matchup of number 9 Alabama and number 1 Indiana. But that will not be the first quarterfinal playoff game. Let's look at the schedule that we've got for the 4 quarterfinals. And if you sat down before the season, well, you wouldn't have had these teams necessarily. But if you had these positions, if you had these champions, if you had programs that had these kind of seasons matched up, you would be very happy. It's all going to start on Wednesday night, New Year's Eve, in the Cotton Bowl. Miami at number 10, Ohio State number 2. These are my, call them predictions, call them suggestions, call them leans, whatever you want to call them. This is what I believe will happen in these playoff games on Wednesday night and Thursday throughout the day. I think Ohio State is the better team. I don't trust Carson Beck in a big game. And so I think you have to go with Ohio State to win this one. This is a rematch, of course, of the very controversial 2002 national championship game in which Miami beat Ohio State. However, Ohio State got a do-over on the worst pass interference call in college football history. The game should have been over. The Hurricanes already started to celebrate, and they had to regroup, and they didn't regroup very well. Ohio State did, and the Buckeyes won the game and the title. That should have an asterisk next to it for all of eternity. That's on Wednesday night in the Cotton Bowl. Then we go to Thursday, New Year's Day. Hopefully you'll be sober enough to enjoy all 3 quarterfinals on Thursday. It starts in the Orange Bowl. Let's see if we can send Oregon and Texas Tech as far away as possible. And, of course, these games were arranged before we do the teams that would be playing in them. That wasn't the intent. But we get Oregon going completely across the country diagonally to play Texas Tech. That's a 4-5 matchup. You would expect that to be a very good football team. This is a matchup of a new blood in Oregon and a newer blood in Texas Tech. I kind of like the Ducks. I like Dante Moore at quarterback. I'm still not sold on the Red Raiders. I don't think they've played the schedule that Oregon has. I don't think they've been tested the way Oregon has been tested. Although beating BYU twice looks even better after what BYU did to Georgia Tech coming from behind in the Pop-Tart Bowl. And no bowl commits to the bit like the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So maybe Texas Tech was a little more challenged than we thought, beating BYU handily twice. But still, you have to lean Oregon here, in my opinion. Then we go to, of course, the Rose Bowl and its traditional late afternoon start in Pasadena, California. We will make a prediction on this at the end of the show, so you want to stay with us for that. And then that evening, in its traditional spot on New Year's night, the Sugar Bowl, Ole Miss against Georgia, a rematch of a regular season game in which the Rebels led by 9 points going into the fourth quarter, and Georgia just completely took over the game in Athens in the final 15 minutes. The Bulldogs, I think, will get the Rebels again, although I think it will be like that game. May not unfold the same way. I think you will get another competitive four-quarter game that isn't decided till the final possessions. Hopefully that will be the case. That's what we want to see when we get to this level of the playoffs, when we get to the Elite Eight, if you will, to borrow a phrase from college basketball. We have 8 teams left competing for the national championship. 8 very good teams. 8 very good programs. We have newcomers. We have traditional powers. Can't wait for that to kick off on Wednesday night. But we're going to hone in, of course, emanating from Birmingham, somewhere down the road, somewhere out my window, about 30 miles south of where I live. The Birmingham Bowl is being played at this moment. Georgia Southern and Appalachian State. We appreciate those teams being here. Wouldn't it have been cool if Auburn had played in the Birmingham Bowl again? Maybe, maybe not. If you're interested in Auburn football, we haven't talked a lot about them lately. I wrote a column in the Birmingham News, the online version now. It's not a newspaper anymore, as sadly. You can find that on AL.com. And the job that Alex Golish has cut out for him, just briefly, a summation of the column. Did you know that if you look over the last 10 years and you looked at all the SEC programs, all 16 of them now, and who had the best postseason run in that time, who had the worst, Auburn would be at the bottom. In the last 10 years, Auburn has won one postseason game. They won the 2018 Music City Bowl over Purdue. Other than that, they have not won an SEC championship game. They had one shot. They lost to Georgia in 2017, and they have lost 6 of their 7 bowl games in the last 10 years. Every other SEC program, except Vanderbilt, has won multiple postseason games, bowl games, and or playoff games in the last 10 years. Vanderbilt's won 1, Auburn's won 1, but Vanderbilt won its postseason game last year, ironically, here in Birmingham in the Birmingham Bowl against Georgia Tech. And the Commodores get a chance to double their pleasure because they will be playing in the ReliaQuest Bowl on Wednesday against Iowa. So Auburn, you are the worst postseason team in the SEC over the last decade. And even worse, you are the worst postseason team in the state of Alabama over the last 10 years. There are 6 football bowl subdivision programs in Alabama, and the other 5 have all won more postseason games in the last 10 years than Auburn has. That should not be the case. That should never happen in any 10-year period in Auburn history. So, Alex Golish, you've got your work cut out for you. Fortunately for you, the portal opens on Friday. There will be a lot of chatter about that online, and we will talk about that more down the road. But right now, we're going to focus on the college football playoff, and we're going to zero in on the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, where Alabama will be playing Indiana. And as we told you in our last episode before Christmas, you cannot have a starker contrast, a better example of the haves and the have-nots than Alabama and Indiana. Let's look at the history and tradition of these two programs. To say advantage Alabama is like saying hammer advantage over nail. Look at some of these numbers. They're mind-boggling. And these numbers come from our sources, Alabama's game notes for this game and sportsreference.com. It's one of my go-tos for college football and college basketball information. They do a great job of compiling stats and historical information on both sports. The record Alabama has now, you can find different numbers here for different reasons. Some of these numbers, in terms of all-time victories, they don't count games that were vacated, which is laughable, nonsensical, carries no weight. The NCAA should do away with that penalty if they even hand out penalties anymore. Alabama, according to sportsreference.com, has 999 victories all time. That means they could win their 1,000th college football game in the Rose Bowl, 100 years after they first played in the Rose Bowl and beat Washington to win their first national championship. Indiana, meanwhile, has won 506 games all time. So Alabama has almost doubled the number of victories in their history as Indiana. Conference titles, Alabama 30, Indiana 3. National titles, Alabama 18, Indiana 0. Bowl wins, Alabama 42, Indiana 3. Last bowl win, well, Alabama won a playoff game a couple of weeks ago. Excuse me. Meanwhile, Indiana's last bowl win was in the 1991 Copper Bowl. Had totally forgotten there was a Copper Bowl back in the day. How many weeks have these teams been ranked in the AP poll in their history? 906 for Alabama, 95 for Indiana. How many weeks have they spent as the number one team in the AP poll? Alabama leads all time, all schools, with 141 weeks at number one. Indiana has spent exactly 7 days, 1 week at number one. Well, more than 7 days. They were number one in the last AP poll after championship weekend, after they won the Big Ten title, after they beat Ohio State. So Indiana is now the number one team in the AP poll for the very first time in school history. So if we were just looking at history and tradition, this game would be a mismatch. There would be no reason for Indiana to show up on Thursday afternoon. However, Derek Thomas, Joe Namath, Ken Stabler, Bob Baumhauer, John Hanna, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram ain't walking through that door. We're talking about the 2025-2026 Alabama and Indiana teams. Look at recency bias. The edge goes the other way. The advantage belongs to the Hoosiers. Let's look at what Indiana and Alabama have done since Kalen DeBoer got to Tuscaloosa and Curt Cignetti did in Bloomington. Last 2 years, Indiana has a better overall record, 24-2 to 20-7. Indiana has a better conference record, 17-1 against 12-4. Indiana has a conference title this year in the Big Ten. Alabama has not won the SEC in 2 years under Kalen DeBoer. Of course, they played in the SEC championship game. It did not go well this year against Georgia. Second trip in 2 years under Curt Cignetti college football playoff. This is the first Alabama under Kalen DeBoer. Now, the college football playoff record, because Alabama There we go. I think we're back. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It's probably the temperature's dropping here in Birmingham, so the internet here is not used to chilly temperatures. Where this gets interesting is in ranked opponents, the number faced and the records. And this is where I think, despite all the good things that Indiana has done, and Alabama has done a lot of good things in 2 years under Kalen DeBoer, Indiana has done more in 2 years under Curt Cignetti. But you always have to consider strength of schedule. You always have to look at who have you beaten? How difficult has your schedule been? And there is no comparison there. Alabama has played 11 ranked opponents in 2 years under Kalen DeBoer, and they are 8-3 in those games. Indiana has played only 5 ranked opponents in 2 years under Curt Cignetti, and they are 3-2. They were 0-2 last year against ranked teams. This year, they're 3-0. But Alabama played 4 consecutive ranked opponents in October, late September, through October this year. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, especially if you're an Indiana fan, you're a Big Ten backer. Well, Missouri, really? You're going to take credit, or you're going to give Alabama credit for beating Missouri? Well, Missouri was a ranked team at the time. And you could say, yes, Missouri lost its bowl game in the Gator Bowl, lost to Virginia. And you could say the SEC is not all it's cracked up to be. If you are using bowl games and bowl records to compare conferences in the year 2025, as we get ready to turn the page to 2026, you are doing it wrong. These teams, once they get to the postseason, many of them are shells of their former selves. So you cannot, in good conscience, use bowl records to compare conferences anymore. If you ever could, but certainly it is a toothless comparison now. But at the time, late September, when Alabama went to Athens, Georgia, then they played Vanderbilt at home, then they went to Missouri, then they played Tennessee at home. Those were 4 ranked opponents in a row. Indiana has not played consecutive ranked opponents in 2 years under Curt Cignetti. This will be the first time they've done so. They played Ohio State, of course, which was number 1 at the time, in the Big Ten championship game, and Indiana won in a true slugfest, 13-10. And now they're going to play Alabama, which was number 11 in the final AP poll after championship weekend. So they have a chance now for the first time to play ranked opponents. And though they are back-to-back games, as we mentioned earlier, 25 days between these games for the Hoosiers. We'll see if that affects them. We'll see the question of rest versus rust will be on full display in this game, because Alabama should be fresher. Alabama should be more in rhythm, more in tune. It's a long time to go 25 days in between football games. To maintain your rhythm, to maintain your pace, to be on target early. It's going to take a little while, I think, for Indiana to get back to being Indiana. And when it has been Indiana over the last 2 years, it's been one of the handful of the best teams in the country. But how quickly can you get back to that when you haven't been hit in the mouth by someone who wants to hit you in the mouth and wants to make it stick the way Alabama will? We'll see. Last year, of course, in the quarterfinals, all 4 teams that got a first-round bye lost their first playoff game after that long rest. It was a little convoluted then because the teams that got the byes weren't the top 4 teams. They weren't the top 4 seeds. They got the top 4 seeds. They weren't the top 4 teams. But they corrected that mistake, thankfully, and hopefully the college football playoff decision makers will correct some more mistakes going forward to make this playoff better. The best thing they can do is condense the calendar. Change the calendar. That's what college football needs more than anything else, is to change its calendar so the playoff doesn't have this long layoff in between games. Even for Alabama, which played on December 19th, and now it will play January 1st. That's too long. Last Saturday would have been a great day to have playoff games. We had bowl games all day long. Some of them were fun. Some of them were competitive. We saw Pop-Tarts sacrificed and eaten alive. We saw one Pop-Tart escape. His whereabouts at last check were unknown. But wouldn't it have been great to have 4 quarterfinal games this past Saturday, 2 days after Christmas? All right, I digress a bit. But in any game that I try to break down, I think it's imperative that we look at the quarterbacks. I think it is all important that we focus on the most important position on the field. Now, we know Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman Trophy, and kudos to him. He had a fantastic season. And no one would argue that Ty Simpson should have won the Heisman instead of Fernando Mendoza, because Ty Simpson fell off over the last month of the regular season. No doubt, no question, no debate. But if you really want to look at quarterbacks, look at how they performed against the best defenses they faced. And so I broke it down in this graphic between Mendoza and Simpson against the top three defenses each of them faced. And one thing that jumps off the page right off the bat is Ty Simpson has played 5 games against the 3 top defenses he faced, because he's faced Oklahoma twice and he's faced Georgia twice. Oklahoma is the number 8 ranked team in the country in total defense, Missouri number 9, Georgia number 11. Meanwhile, Fernando Mendoza faced the top total defense in the country in Ohio State, the number 6 ranked defense in Iowa, and the number 7 ranked defense in Oregon. So how did they perform when they were challenged by very good to elite defenses? How did these quarterbacks perform? Well, first of all, Mendoza was 3-0 in those spots. Simpson was 3-2. But let's drill down a little farther. Look at how many points Indiana scored against the number 1, number 6, and number 7 total defenses in the country. 13 against Ohio State, 20 against Iowa, 30 against Oregon. Look at how many points Alabama scored in its 5 games against the 3 best defenses it played. 21 against Oklahoma the first time, 34 against the Sooners in the rematch, 27 against Missouri in the regular season, 24 against Georgia in the regular season, and only 7 against Georgia in the SEC championship game. And I would argue that we should put an asterisk by that, because that was one banged up, beat down Alabama football team. And you saw the difference in the Crimson Tide when they had time to get players healthy. They had time to get players back when they played the rematch against Oklahoma. And they scored 34. Let's look at touchdowns to interceptions. That's another thing that stands out in this comparison. In those 3 games against Ohio State, Iowa, and Oregon, Fernando Mendoza threw 4 touchdown passes to 3 interceptions. Not great. Great defenses, not a great ratio of TDs to interceptions. 4-3. That is pedestrian. That is not Heisman Trophy-like. Now let's look at Ty Simpson again in the 5 games that he played against the 3 best defenses he faced, Oklahoma twice, Georgia twice, and Missouri. He threw 9 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions. No comparison. Ty Simpson stepped up against the best defenses he faced. He threw 3 touchdown passes against Missouri, did not throw an interception, and that game was on the road, by the way. The second time against Oklahoma in the playoff, 2 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. The first time against Georgia in the regular season, on the road, in Athens, Georgia, 2 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. So in the 3 games that Alabama won against Oklahoma, Missouri, and Georgia, Ty Simpson threw 7 touchdown passes and did not throw an interception. And these were defenses ranked 8, 9, and 11 in the country in total defense. That alone tells me that I'm more likely to believe in Ty Simpson performing at a high level against an outstanding Indiana defense, which is ranked number 4 in the country in total defense. I trust Ty Simpson to play big against a very good defense than I do Fernando Mendoza against a very good defense. Alabama is ranked number 13, by the way, in total defense in the country at the moment. The most yards that Fernando Mendoza threw for against those 3 best on the Indiana schedule, 233. Meanwhile, Ty Simpson threw for 326 against Oklahoma in the regular season, 276 against Georgia in the regular season. So looking at these numbers, studying the statistics, tells me that Ty Simpson's ceiling against and excellent defense is higher than Fernando Mendoza's. That may sound like blasphemy to Indiana fans or Big Ten fans or Heisman voters, but the facts are the facts. And I am going to ride with Ty Simpson and expect that as good as Indiana's defense has been, that he will find a way to make plays. He will find a way to get the ball to Latsir Brooks, who had a breakout game, the true freshman slot receiver, in that playoff win over Oklahoma. He will find a way to get the ball to Isaiah Horton and Jeremy Bernard, who made one of the all-time great catches going up and over an Oklahoma DB to pick the ball off of his back and lift it over his head, reminiscent of the Tyrone Prothro catch against Southern Miss, which many people think is the greatest catch in Alabama history. But that game didn't carry the weight that playoff game against Oklahoma did. So you might have to give Jeremy Bernard an edge there. Even though he didn't score a touchdown, he set one up. And then there's Ryan Williams. And if Ryan Williams can make even one big play, and he still is the best big play maker among the Alabama receivers, if he can have one of those Top Gun moments where he catches the ball, starts to sprint, hits the brakes, the defenders fly right by, and then he takes it to the house. If he can have even one of those moments, I think you have to like Alabama in this game. So who should win the game? What is the prediction? We've done this for select games throughout the season. We have a pretty good track record. I think we've only missed one. Alabama, Florida State. Who else? Who didn't miss that game? Although we did tell you, as I've told you multiple times throughout this year, Gus Malzahn was a potential problem for Alabama, as he's been throughout his career, and he was on that day. But that game is irrelevant right now. What happened against Oklahoma in the playoff is irrelevant right now. What happened for Indiana against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game means nothing right now. All that matters is what happens starting late afternoon, about 3:15 Central Time, I think will be the kickoff on ESPN. What happens for those 3.5 hours starting at that moment as everyone marvels at the sunset over the San Gabriel Mountains? That's the only thing that matters. So who wins? What's the prediction? Maestro, please, if you please. I'm rolling with the Tide, not because I live in Birmingham, Alabama, not because I'm a Bammer, as some Auburn fans would like to lead you to believe, but because I've watched this Alabama team grow. I've watched it, when it's healthy, beat some of the better teams in the country. I think Georgia right now is the best team in the country. I saw what Alabama did to them in the regular season. I saw what Alabama did in its playoff game when it got as healthy as it had been in a month. And the Crimson Tide will be healthier still on Thursday. I expect Indiana to bring it. I expect Alabama to bring it. I expect that this battle between the blue blood Alabama and the new blood Indiana will be a bloodbath. I think it will be a 4-quarter game. I think it's going to take someone making a play late in the fourth quarter to win the game. Maybe it is Zabian Brown, Alabama's big play DB, picking off Fernando Mendoza late. Maybe it is Ty Simpson throwing a touchdown pass to Latsir Brooks on the final drive to win the game and write his name in crimson flame, as they say in the fight song, for all eternity. Somebody's going to make a play late to win this game. And because Alabama has been tested far more often than Indiana, because Alabama has been pushed to the brink and beyond, and it's broken a couple of times, I think Alabama is better prepared for this moment. Indiana has not won a playoff game. This is only Indiana's second playoff game. This is Alabama's 16th playoff game. More than anyone else since the playoffs started in 2014, Alabama's 10-5 in playoff games, 1-0 this year. They snapped their 2-game losing streak by winning that rematch at Oklahoma, by handling the environment in Norman. Indiana hasn't had to face that with these stakes on the line. So, in my mind, you have to lean Alabama. Could go either way. It's a coin flip game. It'll surprise me. The only thing that would surprise me is if it's not. If one team pulls away from the other in either direction. That will surprise me. But otherwise, I'm going with Ty Simpson, who I think is a better big game quarterback than Fernando Mendoza. And I'm going with big game Kalen DeBoer, who is 20-5 against ranked teams in his FBS coaching history, who is 4-0 on the road against top 10 teams in his short tenure as a major college head coach. He knows how to lift his team in these moments. Curt Cignetti, as great a job as he's done, and he deserves to be the 2-time AP National Coach of the Year winner. I think he's the first guy that's ever done that back-to-back years. He deserves every compliment he's received, every award he's been given. He has earned it. What he has not done is proven that he can do it at this level, that he can get a team deep into the playoff, that he can get a team to the national championship game. Kalen DeBoer did that 2 years ago with Washington in the 4-team playoff. And I believe he's going to take Alabama one step closer on Thursday evening. All right, that's going to do it for today. For Scarbo Knows, I'm Kevin Scarbinsky. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps us grow this show. And we have had a great 2025. Hope to continue into 2026 and keep this momentum rolling. Hope this playoff will get some momentum rolling on Wednesday night. And I hope you will check out our sponsor, Money Management Services, the Rice family. As I always say, they're good friends of mine. They will take great care of you. Happy New Year, everyone. We will talk to you after the college football quarterfinals have been concluded. Look forward to that. And I hope everyone has a happy and healthy New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Until then, see you.
Since 1992, Money Management Services in Birmingham has provided individuals and business owners with trusted, fee-only financial advice. We're more than advisors, we're your financial family. From retirement planning to tax strategies and estate planning, our team builds personalized wealth management plans tailored to your life. At Money Management Services, we treat you like family, because when you walk through our doors, you become part of ours.